I'm going to call the meeting to order.
When they came on the day.
Chair, welcome. Would you like me to do the roll call?
Please.
This is the LMCA roll call. Member John?
Present.
Member Wu?
Present.
Member Lum?
Here.
Member Giles?
Here.
Member Kirk?
Here.
Member Prosser?
Here.
Member Walpole?
Here.
Member Heath?
Here.
And we have a quorum with all members present.
Very good. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up. This is a Locke Management Association meeting for benefit of everybody. I'm going to be sometimes saying Locke Management Association, sometimes Management Corporation, because they're the same thing. Locke Management Association is a non-profit mutual benefit association organized under the Non-Profit Mutual Benefit Association law. The association's members shall be the owners of lots within the town of Locke. That's the Locke Management Association. This is the Locke Management Association Board of Directors. So welcome everybody. I'd also like to welcome our supervisor, Patrick Hume. Thank you for attending. Thank you. Chief of Staff, Rebecca Sloan. And David DeFonte, am I saying that correctly? Deputy County Executive for Community Services. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Chair, welcome. If I may interrupt, my apologies for this, but it looks like when I did the roll call, the meeting was muted at that moment. I just have to do the roll call one more time so we can have it recorded, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, this is the LMCA roll call. Member John?
Present.
Member Wu?
Present.
Member Lum?
Here.
Member Giles?
Here.
Member Kirk?
Here.
Member Prosser?
Here.
Member Walpole?
Here.
Member Heath?
Here.
And we have a quorum with all members present. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have two sets of minutes to approve. So we're going to start with the March 11th regular meeting minutes, March 11th, 2024. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read them. I'm going to open this to public comment from online. Anybody has any questions on the minutes online? This is agenda item number 2.
If anyone wishes to make a public comment on item 2, approval of Locke Management Corporation, aka Association, March 11, 2024 meeting minutes, please raise your hand in the Zoom now. I see no hands raised.
Okay, any members of the public who have seen the minutes? I think Martha had her hand up first.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you, Supervisor Hume and staff members from the county for coming. As far as the meeting minutes, they are highly inaccurate, telling my comment that I made regarding the nominations report. Agenda item number 4 was quite inaccurate. I asked the board 4 questions, and the telling of the meeting minutes was nothing like what I asked and conveyed to the board. It needs to be changed. Thank you.
Deborah, did you have a hand up?
Yes, I did. Deborah Mendel, property owner, resident, former secretary of the association, and I highly recommend, and Ms. Esch has just supported my recommendation, that the minutes just be bullet point summaries, because we have recordings, and we have recordings that are actually publicly accessible, and then you'll avoid all of this extra stuff. And I know great effort was put into these, but I highly recommend they just be summaries and refer that recordings are available. And the secretary will have a lot less work also.
Okay, any other public comment on the minutes?
I like the fact that there are details in the minutes, so my preference would be that you keep much of the details, because it's very seldom that you otherwise take another step to look to the recordings, and they are less accessible to you.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Daryl?
I note that Russell Ooms' name is misspelled. It's O-O-M-S, not O-M-M-S.
Any other comments from the board?
Martha's last name was misspelled too. And I would confer that they be a little bit briefer as we go on,
Okay.
more bullet pointed.
Any others? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the March 11, 2024
Move to
meeting
approve.
minutes.
I'll second.
Eric seconds. All those, I guess let's do a roll call, please.
Okay, the motion is to approve. Member Johnny,
Abstain.
Member Wu,
Aye.
Member Lum,
Aye.
Member Giles,
Aye.
Member Kirk,
Aye.
Member Prosser,
Yes.
Member Walthall,
Yes,
Member Heath.
Yes.
And the motion carries with those members present.
thank you. Okay, this is the approval of our special meeting, which was on April 8th, 2024. This is agenda item number 3. Do we have any public comments on the internet?
If you would like to make a comment on item number 3, approval of Locke Management Corporation, aka Association, April 8th, 2024 special meeting minutes, please raise your hand, press star 9. I have no hands raised.
Any public comment? Any board comments?
A comment for both sets of meetings, I will remove the word draft from it to make it final and correct the spelling and the other notations by the public.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for approval of the April 8th, 2024 minutes?
I make a motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Let's do a roll call.
Okay, the roll call vote, motion is to approve. Member John,
Yes.
Member Wu,
Aye.
Member Lum,
Aye.
Member Giles,
Aye.
Member Kirk,
Aye.
Member Prosser,
Yes.
Member Walthall,
Yes,
Member Heath,
Abstain.
and the motion carries with those members present.
thank you. Okay, let's go to agenda item number 4, our year-to-date financial report, treasury process.
Yes. So April, we had a total income of $3,060. Total expenses for April were $14,995. You can see the detail of that on the transaction by account page, which left us a net income of a negative $11,934 for the month. And we finished the month with total assets of $86,373.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment online for agenda item number 4?
If you would like to make a comment on item number 4, year-to-date financial report, please press star 9 now to make a comment on the Zoom. I see no hands raised.
Okay, any public comment? We do want to comment on the treasurer's report.
Under the Common Interest Development Davis Sterling Act state laws, within the first 120 days of the fiscal year, which would be basically until April 30th, a report on the year prior summary is required to be distributed to each of the property owners in the town. Has not been done, ever.
Any other public comment, Carol?
Please, was that regarding a potential audit? I'm wondering about whether we will be doing and other.
Well, I have to remind you, this isn't Q&A. So,
Russell Ooms, owner. To the best of my knowledge, we're not under Davis Sterling as of yet. We're under our bylaws, and CC&Rs were written with Davis Sterling in mind. So, as far as I know, anything in Davis Sterling may or may not be applicable at this time.
are there any comments from the board?
Yes, I do have some comments. First, I want to clarify that we're still using APR Accounting Services. Is that who we're dealing with currently? Okay. Is she actually writing the checks and we're signing them?
Yes, she writes the checks and we sign them.
All right, so I went through last year and the beginning of this year, and there are at least 21 checks that are missing from the report. And when I looked at February 29th, we had 3 missing. When I go back to January, there's not even an accounting of any of the transaction by account reports. And I would like us to have her, for the next meeting, print out a whole clear, the registry from the beginning of 2023 to present. Because either this is an accounting error, or I don't know what's happening with the missing checks. I counted over 21. So we need to look into this. I'm more than happy to meet with you, Joe, and we can try to figure this out. If it's something that...
Do you have the gap in the checks?
Yep, I have the gaps in it, and we can go over it.
If you have them, give it to me and I'll talk to her about it.
Okay, all right. And the only other thing is, let's see, that there isn't, do you know where the check registry is for the meeting in January? Because it's not attached to the agenda. So, you know, we should be getting that clearly every month.
The check register, you mean
The transaction by account.
page?
Yeah.
This page right here?
Yeah.
They're supplied every month.
Okay, all right. And would you know of any reason why there would be missing checks? Does she say, does she tell you? I mean, we sign them, right? You sign them. She prints them out and you sign them.
Yes.
Okay.
If you got those gaps, give them to me. I'll be glad to get a report for next time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah.
Any other board comment? Okay, well, thank you for your report. Okay, before we get to agenda item number 5, I'm going to go ahead and have us address the addendum. We don't want you guys to have to stay through this whole meeting, but this is a discussion with county representatives regarding the future of Locke Management Corporation, AKA Association. So, the floor is yours.
First of all, let me just thank you, Chair, for amending the agenda to offer us the opportunity to come down here. With me, I do have my Chief of Staff, Rebecca Sloan, who is also my predecessor, Don Natoli's Chief of Staff for the last couple of years of his tenure as County Supervisor, as well as Dave DeFonte, the Deputy County Executive for all things community development, long-term planning, land use, and community services. And so, really what I'm here to do is hopefully lean into Locke a little bit. I haven't had the opportunity to do that as of yet. I was busy getting my sea legs under me. I had some pretty urgent matters that needed to be addressed relative to the flooding and fighting the battle against the tunnel and some other things. But now I feel like I've got a little bit of bandwidth to come in and offer our support. And why I think that's necessary, and before I get to why I think that's necessary, you know, in the spirit of collaboration, I always like beginning from that which we can agree upon. and then working out from there rather than the division and the discord. And I think we can all agree that we're all in this room because for some reason or another, we think Locke is a pretty special place. And we may have different reasons that brings us to that, and we may have different experiences that have brought us to that, but we think it's special. We think it's worth dedicating time and energy to making sure that it preserves and that it functions well. The other thing that I think that most of us can agree, and this is why I felt like it was timely to come down and pour in a little bit, is that whatever was intended as far as how it's being run is wearing out some folks that are doing the running. And I think we saw that with the need to call a special meeting just to elect a portion of the executive committee so that the association would not be in default and potentially go into receivership. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that to cast any dispersion, because frankly, from what I've seen, there just seems to be a lot of churning around things in the past, around certain rules and regulations, around the bylaws, around the name, around just descendants lists, and it goes on and on and on. And it's exhausting for me as somebody who only has it bubble up to my level every so often. I can't imagine how exhausting it is for you. And so I'm down here to propose, and this is really maybe what's been agendized for tonight, is to hold a community visioning meeting wherein we put everything on the table and examine the pros and cons of essentially several different paths forward. Whether that is ramping this organization up to a full-blown community services district and having truly publicly elected positions, and the ability to levy against property owners with more teeth than what you currently have. Whether that means keeping sort of the similar situation, but changing the board structure and membership, up to and including eliminating the county representative position, thereby removing the requirement of being a Brown Act organization. I know that had been proposed in the past, and I've heard other people say that they just dissolve the whole thing and we'll just revert it back to just another unincorporated community in Sacramento County. And I'm here to say that out of the 8 to 10, whatever they are, depending on whatever size you want to require it to be, 8 to 10 different unincorporated communities in Sacramento County, I think we do a pretty good job of trying to make sure that they all get the services they pay for and the representation they need. And so I just say that just to say that Locke is a special place and it needs to have special considerations, but if that's the path that people want to take, we will step up to the plate and make sure that we are doing what we need to do. And so, if you agree with me on these points, and if you agree that it's a good idea that we sit down and we have the conversation, my one ask would be that we look at it through the lens of the town of Locke and the future of Locke and the people who made Locke, who lived in Locke, and who will enjoy Locke, and remove the considerations for individuals and individual personalities and peccadillos. And we just move this thing forward from an objective standpoint on what makes the most sense. And so I'm willing to pour into that. We would kind of take that on and offer county support in bringing in an outside facilitator, whatever subject matter experts, if we have different ideas relative to P-bids or HOAs or whatever other considerations that might be put out on the table. But I just feel like we need a little help here to break loose and move forward in a positive direction and get out of this negative swirl. And I hope I'm not misrepresenting. I hope I haven't said anything untoward, because I know you all are pouring a lot of your time and energy into serving this community, and you all are pouring your time and energy into paying attention and wanting something better for it. And so I'm just simply here to offer. If that's something that sounds appealing to you, we can discuss it and move forward with that.
Would you be willing to stay at the podium a moment and address some public comment?
Sure.
Do we have any public comment online?
If you'd like to make a public comment on agenda item number 1, discussion with county representative regarding the future of Locke Management Corporation, aka Association, please press star 9 now. We have one comment. Hi, Angie, if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please start your public comment.
Yes, I want to thank you for being at the meeting and proposing an open discussion and listening to residents and owners and people that are affiliated with Locke. I think it's been long needed, even though I haven't lived in Locke for a very long time. Just knowing Locke through my family and their involvement in Locke, that it is an experiment, and the LMA and the L.M.C. and its government, quasi-government, it is an experiment, but I think we have turned a page or a chapter where we definitely need more expertise, and I think the word is professionalism and expertise to really help support Locke, because it's not just a town, it's also a historical place that's a national historical landmark. So it ends up being that the residents and owners are stewards of something that is bigger than ourselves. And so I think that's what makes it special beyond all the other sort of toxic infighting that happens in Locke. I think that, yeah, having a bigger picture and having experts come in and support the town and the residents would really be helpful. So thank you so much.
Are there any others, Manuel?
Yes. Hi, Tony, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and start your public comment. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Well, thanks for coming down to Locke and trying to unwind years and years of infighting. Whatever the simplest, I think Locke should be the board and the L.M.C. And so on. I think that we should try to find the simplest way to run the town, and if that means the county steps back and leaves the day-to-day goings-on with a board that's not hamstrung. We had a vote of trying to bring the L.M.C. or the LMA into to get away from the brown. And a vote was taken in town, and the majority of the people who voted agreed to eliminate the brown. And what happened was Don Natoli, in his wisdom, I don't know why, short-circuited the vote, and it never happened. He said that he didn't want that to happen. Even after the vote was taken and people agreed to just be under the Sterling Davis Act. So if we can go in that direction and make the process of governing Locke as simple as possible, that's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Are there any others, Manuel?
No, this one has it.
Okay, do we have any other public comment? I want to kind of have these directed since Supervisor Hume has the floor. If they could be, Ronnie is already coming up here, Carol.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ronnie Maiden. I am a former CAC Community Advisory Committee member as well as a founding board member. We spent months, in fact, felt like years, going through meetings. First with the county as well as having our little meetings over here on a weekly basis to try and find out what people wanted. We were given basically a boilerplate HOA contract, the CC&Rs, et cetera, we went through them and we went them down to a page and a half. When when all this went through the Board of Supervisors, we were given the original thing, unamended, as our CC&Rs. I've watched so many, when we complained about it, we said, oh, no one's going to make you do all of those things. Yes, they do, because they're in our CC&Rs. Quite frankly, I would like to see the LMA, we all had done that because we didn't want an HOA. The whole reason it was called the Land Management Association and then later the Locke Management Association was because none of us wanted an HOA. As it stands, the L.M.C. follows a standard HOA CC&Rs, and I'd like that to go away. I had meetings over here with everyone who lived here. When that person that said the Brown Act, the town voted to have the Brown Act abolished, I was never asked. I was the person who said we had to follow Sterling Davis and the Brown Act because we had, by ruling of the Board of Supervisors, we had people appointed by the county. When you have people appointed by a governmental association, you have to follow Brown. We follow Davis Sterling or Sterling Davis, whatever it's called, because we own property in common, which is an HOA thing. So we're talking about this as if, oh, it's just all infighting. No, we have to follow both of them. We can't vote to abolish Brown unless there is no governmental oversight or appointed people on our board. That's not what I say, that's California law. As far as I know, it goes further than that. So what would I like to see? Yeah, I'd like to see the L.M.C. abolished, the CC&Rs gone. I'd like to have town meetings again. Asking people what they really want. I mean, I was going to school full-time and working while I was representing this town.
Hi, good evening.
Douglas Carroll is next.
Oh, sorry. Go for it. Right, okay. Well, Douglas Shah, I'm the former chairman of the L.M.C. I'm so glad that our county supervisor come to town today. He came in like a big dosage of neutralizer. And I think that we are hearing a lot of opinion today from a lot of people, and I think we should seize the opportunity of this neutralizing force to work out something that's positive for everybody. And like the other maiden said, listen to the people. Thank you.
Carol?
It's been 20 years since the board has been intact and trying to work on something. I'd like to possibly talk to at least some of these people or other groups that the county has and Hume has actually referred to, the 8 or whatever they are, and see their process and what's come of their transition to the county taking over. But so far this isn't working. I'm not sure that with the same players, that's, all of us, that it can work the way it would be desirable. And I would also like to see if we have bylaws that the CC&Rs be consistent with those bylaws.
Are there any other public comments?
Thank you. Supervisor Hume, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your interest in our town and trying to move things forward.
Quiet, please.
You had mentioned elections. There has never been a valid election in the 20-year history of Locke Management Corporation under its own CC&R bylaws and the Davis-Sterling Act. Never. There have been nomination processes started and then somehow they get canceled most of the time. There have been 3 elections, but the board members counted their own votes. They never had a third-party inspector of elections as required by state law. They collected their own votes, they held their own votes, and then they trashed them in the wastebasket right there at the meeting. The election balloting is supposed to be held by a third-party inspector of elections or 3 third-party inspectors of election for at least 1 year in case there's a challenge. Well, we've challenged that the property owners of the town are supposed to, under state law since January 1st of 2020, supposed to be the board members and elected by the property owners. We don't get ballots because the nomination processes are stopped in the middle, and they said, oh, it doesn't have to be an election because I'm unopposed, so there's not going to be an election. That's not an election. If this board would follow through with the nomination process that they started and ended with a 17-day period when it's required to be a 60-day period, and then elections follow that, then we might get to elect who's actually sitting on the board in the next month or so. But this is mostly a community service district now, since most of the board members here don't even own property in town. Yet they somehow have the authority to tell us what to pay for our assessments and to take us to court and say, oh, you're not paying what we're telling you to pay. It doesn't work. That's where the division is. And some of the division has to do with prior board members and a couple of the present board members, or one of the present board members maybe, having deeply discounted assessments for their properties when the rest of us are unfairly charged double taxation for street lights, for $10,000 a year for 3 street lights. Doesn't make sense. We need an audit.
Martha, thank you.
We need an audit.
Are there
Thank you,
any other
sir.
public comments?
And we have a petition to dissolve the L.M.C. that will
Okay,
bring
I'm
to
going
your
to
office
open this
next
up
week.
to board comment.
No.
Russell?
I would just like to say that I welcome the opportunity of an open-minded conversation about the future of Locke. And hopefully, whatever is printed is fact-checked and legally checked, so we're all dealing with the same information and not runaway gossip. Thank you.
Deborah?
I do have a question. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're trying to maybe help us move forward because we have been stymied, and part of the problem is that I felt as a board director for over 10 years for both this organization and the Locke Foundation that it was difficult trying to operate as if we were a public government body, when indeed we are homeowners of a mutual benefit corporation. And what concerns me sitting here at the moment, having listened to your proposals, is when you propose a community vision meeting, what does community mean to the county? Because the fact is, the buck stops with me and Stuart and Eric and Mark and Russell and Ronnie and Mike and Martha, Liz and Sandy. That's where the buck stops. We are the owners of this community. Excuse me, I'm getting upset. I don't have any, beef with what might happen here. But what I hear is a community vision meeting. It has a wonderful ring to it, but who does it include? Because these things and with all due respect to your heritage, Carol Lee, and other people who really care about Locke and the history, it comes down to the owners, and we are the stewards, and we have responsibility, but who is going to have a say in what becomes of our property? It's our property. It's the owner's property, and the buck stops with us. And we're insuring the property, and we're trying to hire a property manager, and we're trying to move forward and get things accomplished. But I have this gentleman here who videotapes me, and then he writes bylines. He takes photographs of my home. He says nasty, implying things about me personally. And I mean, even today, it's been implied that we're embezzlers. We're not. We're residents, and some who have lived here since the 70s, who knew the elderly remaining Chinese here and had very close relationships. I have an Afghan on my couch right now that we use regularly on the chilly nights that was hand woven by Mrs. Chan, a lifelong resident here. Well, we are connected to the community, and ultimately it's the owner's responsibility. And what upsets me is the idea that there's some kind of community vision, and people are not going to like this, but that other people who do not have the same skin in the game here that I have, and that Martha has, and Russell, and all the others, and Ronnie, that, how is it going to affect us? I signed up for a very specific thing when I signed my deeds, when I paid for my land, and it was for this association. It has to be adjusted, it has to be fixed and changed. But who's going to decide that? And I want it to be the property owners who signed up for this to begin with. Thank you for listening.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to board comment. I'm going to say a couple things. The reason that I had the opportunity to join this board, Locke Management Corporation board, is because, well, the thing that lit the fuse is we had a shoebox and a half full of bills that had not been paid, and our insurance was coming due, our liability insurance. So we had one board member, Daryl. So something had to be done. If there was going to be maintenance and governance, but to maintain the town. I'm into maintaining the town. That's what I'm into. So, slowly but surely, a board grew, following the correct rules. June Powell's Mays helped us with every step of this process, regardless of what other people say. This is a valid board. But in order for this community, regardless of whatever kind of governance is in place, whoever is, if it's going to be the county or the property owners or the non-property owners who govern and maintain this town, we still need to, goodness, we have the maintenance of the town, and we have our insurance. We got to have a relationship with the bank. We got a bookkeeper. We have to collect assessments. It's assessments by the property owners that pay for things like the fire suppression system and the fire warning system. It's the property owners that are paying essentially to keep the town safe from issues like fire. We have this board here, or the town would have to ultimately, unless something changes, keep maintaining the restroom, supply it, keep it clean, deal with the issues that happen with it, illegal parking, fix the street lights, all the internal dispute resolutions, the peripheral stuff like first right of refusal, sending out postcards, that's what this board was set up to do, to help maintain this town. Some people do more, some people do less. But regardless of when the dust clears, most of what I just said is going to have to keep happening in this town here. So, and you have to have revenue, to do so much of this, which means assessments. So it'd be great if it was back like when the Chinese ran the town, but that's not happening now. So anyway, I want to know if there's any other comments by the board regarding this issue of Locke governance for our future.
So many comments, may I speak now? I don't understand why if the restrooms can't be taken over by the Locke Foundation. I know that things were set up in a different sort of a way, but it seems to me that there are certain things that should not be a part of what the town pays for. All of that can be looked at again and reassessed and possibly moved over with the grant monies that are available for such associations as the Locke Foundation. That would be great. If we go to a straight HOA, we will have we won't have any access to any of the funding that's out there, any of the money. So I think it needs to be looked at in a much, much bigger picture.
Any other comments?
I would make a few comments. So first of all, Supervisor Hume, thank you for coming. Thank you everyone from the county for coming. I am a relatively new property owner here. I and some friends of mine bought the restaurant down the street called Al's Place, also known as Al the Wops. I've been on this board since, I guess, probably 2021 when after we got everything closed and everything going, and as a property owner I wanted to be part of the whatever governance of the community exists, just because we're a stakeholder, I do think that my observation. I'm also a lawyer. I live in the Bay. I live down in the South Bay. I don't get up here that often. I come here for these meetings. I come here sometimes on the weekends. And what I've observed over the past 3 years now, I guess almost, is this is a gem of a location. Not just geographically, but just historically. It is an amazing place. And it obviously started, back in the early 1900s and has moved forward, and it's gone through lots of changes. And what it is today is really a wonderful artifact of California history, Chinese history, cultural history, like in many different directions. And I think even today it has kind of a gravity to it. We see a lot of traffic in Al's during the week when bus tours come through, looking at this historic rural Chinatown, Chinese community. We get tourists on the weekends. We get biker clubs. We get car clubs. We get all kinds of people when we have the Locke Foundation cultural events. It's just a wonderful thing to see. And that all said, there's a lot of dysfunction and a lot of fractiousness, as you've obviously observed, so I won't dwell on that. I'm very grateful for your proposal to have a session. I share Deb Mendel's concern about who is the community that is going to make the decisions or is going to make a decision. So I guess I would say, to whatever extent this meeting or this facilitation can help us see things and maybe set out options is one thing. I don't think it's a good thing for it to make any sort of decisions. As opposed, with regard to like county versus HOA versus whatever, like it needs something. It needs some governance, there's only 3 of us here on the board right now that are property owners. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the property owners are absentee. A lot of them, like originally, are deceased, and their family members are not just absentee, but like distantly absentee. And so it's difficult. I would hate to see something like Locke degrade further and be whatever, diminish further. And I don't just mean that from a business owner here who likes the traffic and the revenue, but it is a special place. So anyway, I thank you for your proposal. I support it. I would not want to make any sort of decisions in this meeting. I would love to just sort of see what the options are. I think, and also if I could just respond, Jenny, to your point, I think like, when you say if we just go straight HOA, we don't get any benefits of maybe applying for grants. Have we ever gotten the benefits of applying for any grants or getting any grants?
Walkways. That was county money.
I beg your pardon?
Walkways.
Okay, well.
Okay, the walkway by yours, as I asked on Natoli, and that was public funding that came to this town to repair the walkway between your
buildings. Because of?
Because we're a public entity, okay?
Okay.
So that's probably,
Anyway, that was my own, I just want to raise that question, like walkways, which are great, and they were degraded before, so anyway, I'll stop talking, thank you.
Okay, I live in Bethel Island in an incorporated area that is, our government is the county. We have a MAC. We can go to the MAC, they have the sheriffs there, that's how we interact. We have a meeting once a month. And so, and you can be a renter, you can be a business owner, you don't have to own property, and they respond to you. I understand that the homeowners are paying a price for the toilet paper that the tourists use. I get that. I wouldn't want to do that either. But I think what's in front of us is an HOA the best way to go, because I don't know of any HOAs that get public funding, right? That's, and that's where I'm scared. I've had a sign in front of my business, I've been here for 20 years, that says, we need to fix the walkways. It's not on our agendas. We're not even looking at it. It's a huge liability, and it's huge. It's beyond what a HOA/Brown Act board can take care of. And that's why we do need serious people to come in that are experts to help us. We didn't even know if we're a 501(c)(3). I've been at this for 20 years. I've seen in paperwork a 501(c)(3), C6. I'm like, we don't even know what we are. And, we applied for a grant and didn't get it, I believe, because we put that down. We didn't put down that there's a legislative body attached to this board and we can get public money. And that's why we fill out 700 forms and come under the Brown Act. I know it can be punitive at times, it can be cumbersome, but there are benefits. So, and quite frankly, being here 20 years, I used to be called an invitee and I had no rights. So if you take and just put the HOA section in, people like Jenny and I that are business owners, renters out here, they can't come to meetings, they can't say anything. And we're all participating in this community. I get the homeowners, so a community service district, I'm on a special district that does reclamation. There's a % of our property tax that is then put back for us to maintain and repair levees and drainage. So, that's where and then we get grants because we're a public entity. So I really think that's the direction to go. And that's what I would vote for. But again, I think that's a huge undertaking on the county's part. And we're gonna need some real expertise about, what would it cost to do that? Do we have to go to LAFCO? What do we do with the common areas? Is the county willing to take on the back and pave that? And the lighting situation, are you guys already paying property tax for lighting assessment in this town?
Yes, we are.
So there's all these questions, and that's really what we need to sit down, and if you had a facilitator, we could start doing the board, and then starting to look at, what direction. But I don't want to be an invitee anymore. I would like to participate, and I have participated.
Lisa and I have been cleaning the town and dealing with the trash and the green waste since COVID. We used to have somebody that took care of that. If we have no say, what's the point? We are the faces of this town.
We
promote this town. I do street festivals that I lose money on every year that a lot of people benefit from. A lot of the businesses make their best money, and it's out of my pocket. I am the community. I am part of the community as much as a homeowner is. I am there. I'm promoting this town. I'm loving this town. I'm cleaning this town, and so it would be a shame if it was all just something that happened that we were not only not invitees, but we weren't even privy to anything. We have a lot to say and a lot to give and a lot of input, and we're very passionate about this town.
And it is the split of the HOA and the Brown Act that is incredibly complex. You know?
Okay, now what I'm gonna do here, because we have a lot of good subjects that
Yeah,
can come
so
in a town hall meeting.
I would just one other question. Does the Brown Act supersede Davis Sterling? It's a question I've had for 20 years. No one can answer it.
Okay, I'm sure we can get an answer, hopefully, to that. I'd like to give our representatives from the county an opportunity to address what has come up here, if you feel it's appropriate, or if you're going to be taking back what you need. And then hopefully we can set up, get the ball rolling for a town hall meeting.
Thank you for that last piece, because I wasn't sure I even heard that much yet. So if you believe having a larger discussion is better, then I think we're committed to doing that. And we're committed to bringing down people who can ask or answer some of these esoteric questions. Up to and including, maybe there needs to be a bifurcation of the town where Main Street is governed one way and the back of Locke is governed a different way. And truly bifurcate, hold on Martha, I'm speaking, and truly bifurcate homeowner interests versus the public facing portion, the commercial part. I don't know, and I'm not here to try and put my thumb on the scale and say this is what I think you all ought to do. I'm just here to say, look, obviously there's a lot of county time that I think is used responding to situations that arise out of the town governance. And to Lisa's point, whether it's a special district, whether it goes back to the county, you do not have to have this form of government to be eligible for public funds. And that money that my predecessor got for the walkways, we're given money to do things every year. And this could be one of those communities for which would do that. Now, obviously, ARPA changed things and that made it a whole different consideration. But my point is, there are a lot of different ways to skin the cat to take care of this town. And I was getting the feeling in talking with board members and in hearing from the public that there's just a level of frustration that doesn't seem to be moving forward. And I'm just offering to try and break that log jam free. And if that's a public discussion where we can sort of, and it doesn't have to be thou shalt at the end of it, and now we've got our marching orders, but at least we can start to have something that then we go to phase 2 of the discussion.
Thank you.
Stuart, I'd like to provide public comment to this agenda item. Coming from a Chinese organization and being part of Locke Foundation since 2015, centennial year, and now sitting on the L.M.C board for the last almost 2 years, there are issues, and these are issues that the county desperately needs to help us out, because the board and the community, the tiny community itself, does not have money to take care of services. When we advertise for town manager $1,000 per month, and we're operating on a budget of $50,000 per year, 20 years existence, this board has not developed or even saved enough money for a capital improvement fund to take care of the road, paving the roads, or taking care of the sidewalks, or taking care of the lights. We have no money. We don't have the expertise and the resources. Folks haven't been actively writing the grants so that we can capture the money. It's been difficult. And the folks who are sitting on the board, they're getting very tired, need help. We can't do it alone. Even though with the Chinese community interests, we're trying to preserve the Chinese culture, it's still not enough. 1915, you have a boom and bust up to over 1,000 Chinese might have been here. Now we're 70 residents, only 7 are Chinese. And so there's a misconception about the Descendants and Ascendants. Are they coming back to live here? So the list that we've had for 20 years' time, only one person that has responded to that list. And so there's some differences, and that doesn't match between the bylaws and CCRs. It's causing so much complication for the board and also to the property owners and the residents to try to abide by those laws. And it's causing people personalities that unfairly cause so much criticism that's really tainted the folks who have some passion to take care of the town.
Are there any other board comments? Well, again, I want to thank our county representatives for coming in here. I hope it helps enlighten you on a little bit more of not only just the negative things that you've been getting hit with, but some of the elements that it's going to take care of what has to always be taken care of right now, and then what we might be looking at into the future. So, what do we do about our next step here with the meeting? Organizing a town hall, do you have a suggestion?
So I would say, and I would maybe look to clerk staff to keep me in line here, or one of my colleagues to the side, but I think if I see nodding heads of a majority of the board that you would like to do this, that provides me the direction to make it happen.
Okay.
And we'll convene, maybe even down at Gene Harvey or somewhere that can incorporate a little bit larger, more open environment. And again, I might coordinate with a couple board members and get issues and concerns that you would like to have answers in somebody's pocket when they arrive. And then we can talk, because the point about the 501c3, the Locke Foundation versus this board, I mean, those are who does what and how and who's more nimble and able to pursue different grants and different things. And, you know, those are all, I think, informative things that will help shape the future so that we can move forward in a positive way.
Yeah. We had 35 CAC meetings, Community Advisory Committee meetings. Ronnie was deeply involved with those. Good. They were finally finalized in 2002, which set the boilerplate for the governance here in town. Might take more than one meeting, town hall meeting, for us to move forward.
I'll commit to more than one. I don't know if I'll commit to 35.
Ronnie?
May I address that? When we had our meetings, first at the school, then over at the Gene Harvey. When we had our weekly meetings, I actually went from door to door saying, will you come on, is Thursday night good for you? And I actually got a majority of people, whether they were owners or not, to come, and we discussed it. We came to consensus. Something, you know, there were some people who wanted one thing and other people who wanted another, but we discussed it. And then we could go to our monthly meeting with the county, with Donna Tolley, with Isla Collin, with all of those people. We could come and say, this is what we discussed, we're still working on it, or this is what we decided. So you might want to have little meetings here with just people who live here, or.
If I may. What happened with the meetings is all of a sudden they were scattered. When we first started doing it, it was like every once a month, I think, on the first Tuesday or something, and everybody knew. But then all of a sudden, the meeting, oh, well, next Thursday, oh, we canceled that, it's the Thursday after that, and oh, we're just not going to have a meeting this month. It needs to happen on a steady, because people can't just write off their whole world and say, oh, well, I just got to call today and we have a meeting tonight. That doesn't work, not for working people. So if you're going to if you want to do meetings, you kind of need to say, we're going to do it on these days, at least a week in advance, at least. And I think that's the law, but that fell by the wayside too. So,
yeah. Addressing that, these particular meetings have always been every other month on the second Tuesday. But even though we get the agenda and whatnot very late, sometimes the final agenda the day of that meeting. However, I'm sure if we can work out a meeting, for instance, it might end up in the Gene Harvey, we'll have much more time than that. A week or two.
Well, that'd be good. That
Because
would
that's
help.
what we want is community involvement. So again, thank you for coming. If you're more than welcome to sit through the rest of our meeting.
Please don't take personal offense to this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 5, a report regarding the Locke Fire Suppression System certification. There's not a lot to say. I'll speak a little, then open it up to public comment. Phase 1 was complete. I think we discussed this at the last meeting. The brackets have been in place. The system works the way that it was intended to work from the very beginning. This next phase here is installing fire system bells in 5 of the buildings. I've talked to each of the owners of the buildings, and I've talked to the company, the electrician that could put them in. And there was a couple little lags there because one of the buildings is the Locke Garden, which is for sale, and the owners are out of town, so we have to deal with realtor, etc. So I wanted to wait until our festival was over with because I didn't know how intrusive it was going to be to have the electrician come in here and do the installation. So that's the next step. Apparently, all the owners have agreed to pay for that electrical installation. It won't be the property owners of the town that pay for it. So the next step after that will be setting up a relay from our main pump to the emergency pump. And then the last step of the whole process is general maintenance for the next 15 or 20 years, hopefully. So I'm going to open that up to any questions that someone may have online.
If you would like to make a public comment on item number 5, report regarding Locke Fire Suppression Certification, please press star 9 in the Zoom. I see no hands raised.
Any public comment here? Deborah?
I won't bother getting up, just to thank you for following through and taking care of the certification.
Just to clarify too, the Locke property owners did pay for this. We originally had a bid that was about twice as much as we ultimately paid for, but we were very fortunate that we didn't have to have brackets fabricated and sent to us, etc. So it came in about $8,500. So
I'd like to thank you because I trust you to do what you've been doing. Thank you.
thank you. Are there any comments on the board regarding the fire suppression system update?
Just one correction. It was $9,500.
Sorry.
Not $8,500. But that's still
I
half.
kept the extra 1,000.
Don't say that.
That's still
on record. Don't.
Yeah.
That's still less than half of the original estimate.
Yep. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, report regarding hiring a Locktown manager. Honey, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit first, then we'll open it up to public comment.
Okay. I'd like to, first of all, thank Member Heath for opening up a Indeed account and also Craigslist account to actually post the job listings for a month from March 25th until the end of June. So out of the postings, I have a handout here in pink. It shows a summary of total applicants. We received 19 out of that. Indeed, we have 12. Craigslist, 4 applicants. Beacon newsletter, 1 applicant. L.M.C outreach and mailbox, we have 2 applicants. so far in my preliminary review, 4 applicants have bachelor's degree, 3 have MBAs, 1 has a law degree. And as far as the background of some of these applicants, 4 have real estate background, 1 has a broker's license, 4 have real estate license, 12 have property management experience, 3 said they have common interest development experience. Nobody has any grant writing experience. 3 applicants have language skills, and 1 applicant is in a mailbox coming, so I haven't reviewed that application yet. But on page 2, regarding the process, we've advertised the job in the Beacon newsletter mid-January to mid-February. We advertise in Indeed and also Craigslist. And I've outreached to Mercy Housing of California and asked them to advertise for the job position. We also refined the duties of the town manager, and the job description is enclosed in your package. And we so far led 2 tours. We led 1 tour for 2 applicants who applied in early February, and I've created an application screening matrix and started, of course, to review the resumes to give you some idea about their backgrounds. I've circulated copies to Stuart, Joe Prasa, and Lisa, and Jenny, you would have your package today?
Yes, yeah.
And I gave package to Greg and also to Darryl Wu. I've asked Giles and Kirk to develop some interview questions. I don't know if you had a chance to do that yet, but I've asked you in March to do that, to develop some questions that the interview panels can review and use for the final candidates.
No, I sent you something about redoing the job announcement.
Yes,
so I think you took in some of my concerns. I appreciate that.
Right, so I'm now asking the entire board if you can send me 5 questions that you think that interview panel should ask. I'll memorialize this in an email to you tonight. But that would be good to have some ideas about the questions that we should ask each of the candidates. And as far as the interview panel, Martha Prasa, myself, and at least 2 Chinese organizations, or possibly 3, will participate in the interview panel hiring process.
I would like if we all participated. We all need to participate as a board. And because that's usually on boards I've been on, when we're hiring people, we all participate. I think that's an important that we bring them in and have them.
Yeah, let's let Honey finish your report, then we can bring up these, because I have a couple of things too.
So the last item, of course, are tentatively interviews would be planned for the last week in May or beginning June. If we could narrow it down from the 19 candidates, maybe to possibly 8 candidates, with the ones with the strongest background that could help us out for what we need. So, questions?
Okay, I'm going to open that up to public comment. Do we have any online?
If you would like to make a public comment on item number 6, report regarding hiring of the town manager, please press star 9 now. I see no hands raised.
What am I hearing?
Outside.
Yeah.
Do we have any public comments in the room?
The door's shut. I tried
Yeah,
to
the door's locked.
The door's shut.
We got different temperatures.
I know, but
Some people are sweating, some people are.
You can just ask them to move.
how do you keep going? We can't hear. You know, when the chair can't hear.
Okay, well, I'll open it up to the
Wait.
board.
I don't think it was clear.
Oh.
So you're asking public comments
Yeah.
online? or
That's done with now.
Oh, okay. I have one, if you're calling on me. I didn't, I'm sorry, honey, thank you, very thorough, but I'm sorry I didn't look at everything in detail, and I'm not sure if it's still on there that we're looking for people who can also write grants. If that is that?
That was part of it.
That was part of it.
Well, I don't know, if it still is, I would take that off. It's a lot to ask, and you're really narrowing down your needs, and I would rather a property manager not be involved with our finances, and that just be left to the board and the treasurer. We just need somebody to manage the physical properties, the physical aspects of the common ground, and have an accountant for the rest. We've been talking about writing grants for 20 years, over 20 years. I mean, I'm done hearing about grants, I really am. So, but thank you for all the work, and I'm glad to hear that we got so many applicants once you went on the internet, which is rare. Unfortunately, everybody now has to go for a job. Thanks.
Are there any other public comments in the room?
Your budget proposals that have not been distributed to the property owners as required in November have always included $12,000 for a property manager. Our assessments pay $12,000 or are charged $12,000 for a non-existent property manager. Where has that money gone?
Of course, I wrote budgets when I was chair for 4 years, and of course you put things in the budget that may or may not be spent, but with the amount of money this town puts in, it'll be spent somewhere. I kind of agree on the thing about grants. A friend of mine just wrote $12 million. She had a $12 million state grant to give to urban farmers. And there were a lot of applicants, but the ones she weeded out were the people that couldn't follow the rules of the grant. All grants come with rules, strings, attachments, and demands. And if you don't follow those rules, they take it back. They want the money back. So there's a liability to accepting a grant and being able to service the grant and make sure all the timely reports are made. You're dealing with a very fixed algorithmic bureaucracy that must be followed. So hopefully the board itself can do that. Thank you.
Any other public comments from those in the room regarding the town manager? Okay, let's open it up to the board.
Do we want them to do minutes and agendas?
No, we do not, because the bylaws, CCR, say that the officers of the LMA, including secretary takes all of the minutes and helps prepare agenda with the executive board.
But do you want them to prepare them? Because,
no.
Okay, so
no.
Shirley Roberts, for I don't know how many years, did all the minutes and the agendas. As long as that county is willing to continue to do this, great.
10 hours per week, it takes a long time.
Well, that's,
I think
we
want them to take care of property management activities.
I just want to clarify that, so
Did you
we're
say
sure.
Sacramento County does the agenda?
Well, you put it out, but they publish it, they do all of the compliance aspect of it, okay? So that's why I haven't been clear on whether Sac County's going to continue to do this for us.
No, we don't know that at all.
Okay, so that's a question for Pat Hume on whether we need a manager to do the compliance
And I'm
part.
kind of with Lisa too, as far as having this as a whole board issue regarding hiring a town manager. Putting something like we want 2 Chinese organizations in there, for one thing, is a slippery slope. Another thing to bear in mind, this property manager is managing the property that is owned by people who pay property tax and pay assessments. That's first and foremost. It doesn't diminish people who are renting their businesses, residences, or other business owners. But a town manager does not have to be particularly political, you know. But anyway, any other comments by board members regarding the hiring of a town manager?
No.
I'd like us to...
If I just very quickly would, I guess, echo your, what I'm perceiving it, but please correct me, a reservation. I do think a a board-wide interview processes would be helpful. You know, whether that needs to be all in person, I will raise as a question, given my proximity is fairly remote. If it could be done remotely or individually by me, that would appreciate that accommodation. In terms of who else interviews, I do ask, like, who other than the property owners should be involved, and I'm not sure what the involvement of Chinese organizations necessarily brings to the table when it comes to what I perceive to be a relatively straightforward property management undertaking.
The only reason that would overlap is because we have board members who are in Chinese organizations.
Fair enough, but they're on the board. So, I mean, why make that an additional criteria is I guess maybe the question I would ask.
I think we might need some advice on how to do a full board interview and not violate the Brown Act. So that's a question I think we're going to have to ask.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is take our original town manager committee and have a meeting, thumb through the resumes. Some we might be able to pare them down a little bit at that meeting itself, but decide how we're going to proceed, choose the dates, how much time we're going to spend on each applicant, keep the questions consistent, how we're going to reply, and maybe whittle them down to fewer, or maybe one will just stand up and we want to hire.
You know what we did at one of our groups is that we would look at the applicant, rate it from like 1 to 3, and everybody do it, and then show just based on their resumes, what everybody felt.
But I think it's going to start with us having a meeting of the committee. We have a lot of applications now, and there's going to be some variables. So we can do that. We don't have to do that here as a whole general board.
I'll just share with you background experience though. When I was hiring for Department of Housing, at one time we had like 100 applications, but we set up an application hiring matrix which shows if it's property management, computer skills,
what you want,
HOAs, etc. So there might be 8 attributes that we're looking for. But the rating assessment is based on number of years. So let's say the rating scale is 1 to 5. 1 or 2 years is given a 1 point.
Right.
Maybe anywhere from 2 to 3, 5 years, 2 points. But then it's consistently looked at for each of the resumes.
Right.
But the point being, the resumes are not standard. They're all different formats, and some of them didn't have specific dates.
Well, we can discuss this as committee.
This is an example.
That's also excuse me to interrupt you, but that's also the applicant's failure, right? If they can't put a decent resume together, if they can't articulate, you know, I've been around, I've seen a lot of applicants, I've seen a lot of like fudged stuff, I've seen a lot of no dates. It's like, you know, like if we want experience and the resume doesn't have experience, I'm sorry, it lands in the circular file.
I just have one more question. Did I see something on our email agenda about incumbents? Was there related to this? I was really confused about that because I don't see it in our package, but I thought I saw it on my email.
Did you say incumbents?
That's what it said.
Are you talking about the job duty statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to use the word incumbent.
We can change it. It's a draft.
Yeah, because I got confused on that.
Because I was describing the job duties.
Do you have the one? This was Shirley Roberts' agreement. Do you have this? I only have the first page.
I may have.
Here, pass that down to her, and I'll look for the rest of it. It should be in a file somewhere here.
Anna Pavel, is that her name?
Okay, we'll organize a committee meeting and we'll bring it back to the board.
Chair Walthall?
I don't know. Yes.
I know there was discussion on whether we will continue to provide correction services for the L.M.C. Flo Evans, my supervisor, the clerk of the board, she responded and said in order to do services with the clerk, we would need a service level agreement if they're branching off from the county. So say if the L.M.C. is branching away from the county, we would need a service level agreement. It says without an agreement in place, we would not be able to continue to provide addendum management services. And it says management services inclusive of clerking. But right now, you are still
Yeah,
the LMCA.
it will be for a while.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 7, report on the condition of the Star Theater. It's been an ongoing issue. It's virtually impossible to get hold of the owner, although the owner did respond to when we were getting the fire suppression system fixed to remove the vegetation. However, tin keeps flying off the roof. There's an issue that has come up about having the archway connected to Larry Hall's building. Someone apparently had talked to him and suggested that he talk to me personally, but apparently either he wrote a letter or somebody wrote it for him. It was sent to the county that I never saw. But he has concerns with an archway being connected to his building. That's also connected to the Star Theater. And I assured him that we will handle that issue. It just means putting up a post, maybe on both sides. We could go right to the company that did the work initially, but we feel it more prudent to get a bid or two other and look at some of the other options. The thing that the archway could be connected, not with bolts like it is, but it could be connected with other materials, breakaway materials, even simple as, I've talked to Patrick Hume a little bit about this, materials that could break away easily. So we have someone who's concerned with that building falling down, and that's on the upper level, which is much more stable than the lower level. So, but that's a privately owned building, and is it the Locke Management Corporation's responsibility? Where does that responsibility end? It certainly would when it comes to the new walkway and the archway. But again, it brings up the point, how much responsibility is it of the Locke Management Corporation and the Locke Management Corporation Board of Directors to be dealing with private property? That includes sidewalks too, even though there's a public easement on the sidewalks. So that's what's happening in my little report with the Star Theater. I'm going to open it to public comment, and this could go anywhere we need. Is there anything anybody online wants to address Star Theater?
I can take a look at that. If you would like to make a comment on item number 7, report on condition of Star Theater, please press star 9 now. I see no hands raised.
Okay, anybody in public?
Being a builder, it's so hard to watch our town have to pay a lot of money for these fairly simple things. There's a good reason why he wants this not attached. I don't know if you've looked at it. You can watch the Star Theater leaning over, attached to the sign, and it's pushing his house. You can see his house being pushed. So it's, a good idea to get it. But like, I have a forklift. I could come in with a forklift and hold it up, and we could undo it and take out a slat, and we could dig 2 holes and get a guy or a laborer and a guy and dig and put 2 things in concrete and support it, and for $2,000 you could do the whole thing. Yeah. Unless you find a contractor and find a workman's comp and bonded and insured and a special license and get a permit from the county, then it's $12,000, and you can't afford it. We will never be able to afford that at the current assessment rate, ever. So
That's the first thing we need to do is take a look.
Yeah, take a look.
Yeah,
But,
what it needs.
blah, blah, blah.
Any board comments?
I have questions actually. Is it Kathy, George's ex, or the children, the 2 daughters that own the Star Theater
Well,
now?
according to all that we know, and we have to go by who gets the assessment bill, is Kathy Chandler.
It is Kathy, okay. And she is paying her assessments?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a shame. We might just watch that building crumble down and fall. So what are you gonna
In the
do?
CCNRs, it is, I mean, there's maintenance. I mean, we went after the Wall-E building. How is it that we're not following through on?
We did send letters.
We have sent letter after letter after letter.
But there are, and I don't have the CCNRs to refer to, but what are the repercussions of not following through with building maintenance, especially a building that's potentially dangerous to other buildings, people, and loss of history?
There are mentions in bylaws of us going in and even things like cleaning up somebody's place, but you want to open us up to a lawsuit? That's private property. Guaranteed something could happen. Go in and we start monkeying with somebody else's building.
No, I'm not even saying that. I mean, it seems to me that if we can go after people potentially taking their buildings from them for not paying the assessments, then how is it that this is allowed to go on?
Well, again, is it the Locke Management Corporation's responsibility?
I
Or
don't
is
know.
it the county's? The county has the ability to go in there and condemn that building. They have the ability to go in and to make them put up a cyclone fence around that whole building.
That would not be a great thing. I'm just saying that my understanding that there were many things in the CCNRs about building maintenance, and if we can take people to court for not paying their assessments and potentially take their building, why can't we do the same for them? Or why can't something needs to be sent to her that it has to happen now? Or maybe the county does come in and says, okay, this is fine, we're gonna take this over.
County is very aware of that building. So,
And it was suggested that the county send whoever the owner is, a letter saying we'd like to see a structural engineering report, and they can try to enforce it the next day, or they can wait a year. But I think it has to come from the county at this point.
Okay.
I think that's...
if we could push a little bit.
Yep.
Okay,
I mean, if there's safety issues, I think it's worth raising it back up.
I asked Pat Hume, if you had a building like this in your neighborhood, what would you do? Yeah. I'm actually leaning when I go around, when I walk by it, you have to lean away from it now. I'm like, I'm short,
Okay, I'm gonna move on to agenda item number 8. This is an action item. Vote to incorporate the Locke Prior Residents, Descendants and Ascendants Organization list with the existing Locke Management Corporation, aka Association Prior Residents, Descendants and Interested Parties list action item. Carol, you have had, as representing Locke Prada and Douglas, had opportunity for at least 2 meetings and maybe 3 to explain the organization, what you're after. But if you'd like to give another brief little comment before we open it up to general public comment, feel free.
I realize that this is, we realize that this is, the incorporation of this list is something that is challenging in terms of what we're asking. However, it would be more consistent with the bylaws. And so more than this list, I think that's, at least my goal, is that the bylaws be consistent, or the CCNRs be consistent with the bylaws. As far as this list, it would be nice because I have heard from people, I don't have, just like you don't have time, I don't have time either. So this is a challenging task to make sure that everybody on this list needs to be on this list. But people have said, I don't want something now, but I may want something later. And I've also heard, there was somebody that was here at the festival that said, oh, I understand that this building had come up and there was no notice sent, and I would have liked to bid on that. So I think there is interest from this list, and I would like to see at least this much of the list incorporated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment online?
If you'd like to make a public comment on item number 8, please press *9 now. I see no hands raised.
Are there any public comments in the room?
May I? I think for the past few years, we have been talking about the original list was never updated. So now I think Locke Prior, we have put in painstaking effort to put it together. Now it's ready for you to use. So, so for the past few years, you just have to stop complaining that it's not updated. Now it's updated, it's ready for you to use. So I think the board should have no other consideration but to incorporate the Locke Prior list into your existing ones. And remember, this is our opportunity to right the wrong thing we have done. We not only owe it to the descendants of Locke residents, we also owe it to the entire Chinese community. Locke doesn't just belong to the property owners here. Locke just doesn't just belong to the Chinese organization who are present here. Locke belongs to the entire Chinese American heritage. Locke belongs to the entire humanity. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
I would just like to go on record that I oppose this wholeheartedly because I think it's just a burden to this committee to take on that list. And since they were so generous to make the list, it would be simple enough for the Locke Management Corporation to send them an email, one email, and say, hey, activate your list. And they can send the list. Because they have the list, they can manage the list, they have the emails, they have the addresses. Hopefully they have emails, because then you can send them quickly for nothing. If you have to put it in a postcard and mail it, it's laborious, having been through many mailings. Thank you.
I agree with Russell, and I'd like to say that I happen to know that the Aoyang family that still owns property here, they still have family in China. The Chan family that still owns property here, they have family in China. So will we be getting lists for how many generations of descendants are still in China and alive? And I mean, this could go on forever. Don't set this precedent of adding to our list. I'm sorry, certainly to Corliss. I heard that Corliss was never on the list. I have no idea why. I didn't make the list. But we've been very faithful in sending out what we, to the list we started with. And I know that because I was the secretary. But yeah, don't accept more people on the list. It's impossible for us to do that. It really is. I understand the intention and it's honorable and I respect it, but we can't do it. Thank you.
Go ahead and speak again.
Initially, the bylaws actually had it written that this should be updated.
Right.
I would accept that, or we would accept that perhaps up to this point, the people on the list thus far be accepted because the responsibility, wherever it lie originally, that list was not updated. And so we felt we needed to spend the time to at least get it updated to this point. So.
Okay. Are there any board comments?
I have a couple questions, and maybe for you, Carol.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Martha.
go ahead, Martha.
The bylaws do state for the prior residents and descendants list that it be annually updated with prior residents and descendants who lived in Locke prior to 1953, and their lineal issue, etc., etc. There were not only Chinese people who lived in Locke prior to 1953. I have the 1930 census that shows 550 people lived here from 23 different countries of origin, including more people from Spain and Russia than any other foreign entity. If you're going to update the list, I hope that you include everybody that is on that 1930 census. See if you can find some of those folks' ancestors and descendants. Thank you.
Carol, I'm gonna have to,
Pardon me?
I'm gonna have to not let you address everybody that has come up.
Eric,
But yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to have my memory refreshed that what's it, Locke Prior, the organization
Yes.
is a
Prior Residents.
is a 501c3 organization.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, and that's maintained as a charitable organization.
It's what?
Maintained as a charitable organization.
Yes.
Okay, so it's still functioning.
The 501c3.
Okay, got it. And then, other than it here, I know actually this isn't a question for you, so that I just want to make sure that I remember the Prado was a 501c3. Thank you.
And this whole thing was because of the discrimination that happened at that time.
Understood.
And so it has not
Understood.
anything to do with any of the other populations that were here.
Understood. And thank you.
Okay, thank you.
are there any other board comments?
I have a question, actually. Were you guys able to sort through the confusing interested parties list?
Pardon me?
The interested parties list?
These were part of it wasn't.
No, I know, but have you figured that out? Because that's something that really needs to be looked at. The interested parties could be anybody, and that's questionable to me.
That, I agree. But we got part of this list incorporated from your original list. So
Right.
it was on your original list. It wasn't on ours.
Yeah, I know. I still don't understand it, and I was wondering if you guys had figured that out.
I just incorporated because
It's just,
you had your list, and I wanted to make sure that what you had on your list was incorporated into this list.
Yeah.
So that's why you would be voting to incorporate your list with this list. And, so.
Okay.
How many are we talking about? What's the number?
The additional.
It's total of about 300-ish.
And how many was on the original list?
120.
120, okay.
I actually don't know how many is on this list now, because we worked on it a long time ago, and we've been talking about this for quite a while.
Your list?
Yes,
Okay.
well, that list is an incorporation of the original list that you had.
Oh, so
along
it
with
includes that 125?
So it's
Okay.
the addition of the 125 is the update. Whatever that difference is the update to your list of 2005 or whenever you were supposed to have continued and did not continue the updates. So
Are they mainly emails?
there's a lot of emails. Some of them are older population and we don't have emails for them. But
What do you think the percent is that you don't have?
It's more than half.
More than half do not have emails.
Oh, no, less than half.
Less than half? Half, okay.
I'd like to bring up a couple of things.
Yes.
The latest list that I have anyway, you admitted that quite a few people on that list don't belong on that list.
I don't know that I admitted that. Can you give me a couple of examples, please?
Jeff Pro, who's the ex-chairman of the Folsom.
That was somebody that was interested at one time, yes.
Clarence Chu.
I believe he is interested, yes.
Are we this is Locke product. This is not interested parties list. You're giving us Locke Prior Descendants and Ascendants list, not interested parties.
That it has, as I mentioned before, it has incorporated within it other people that, like you just mentioned too, that maybe don't want to be on the list now. But for example, some of these other people that are on there said, I am not interested at this time, but I may be in the future. And it depends on the property that might be up for sale. So, and then the other thing I'd like to mention is that Chinese in general as a culture, I'm just going to generalize, are not necessarily involved people in terms of they're private, they're not going to hold office. If I asked you to say how many in the past would have held some sort of office, you'd go, gee, I'd be hard pressed to say that there were any, because it's not our style to be very public. So, some of these people will not respond to, yes, I want to be on the list, because that's somehow, what would you say? It's militant. It's not militant, you're just giving your voice, and they won't do it. Mm-hmm. So there's some frustration there.
But you're handing a list here to us.
Yes.
That you want us. I'm still trying to figure out why you as an organization, the 501c3, are not doing what your bylaws say, your articles of incorporation. You're giving it to us to do. And let me ask another thing. What else is Locke Prior doing? Because I've read thoroughly your articles of incorporation and your bylaws. What else are you doing other than notifying people that a building might be up for sale?
We're trying to, we're not notifying, because that was, to me, that's a superseded thing that we saw that you were doing, or supposed to be doing, that we were, quote, helping you update, because you did not update it.
I want to clarify this too, because both of you have said now the list is updated. Do you realize what you're saying? That now the list is complete for the descendants of those that are in Locke? You've handed us a list that has a lot of people on there that are not Locke Prior Residents or Ascendants.
Right, it
and
says
you're saying you're fully aware that even the shorter list, and you're also saying it was never updated. Corliss was updated, Douglas Aoyang was updated, but you're handing us a list that even the short list is costing the property owners of this town over $200. And now that list that you want to give us has got so many more, it's going to cost the people that own property in this town upwards of $500 every time a building comes up for sale, in an environment where we've got Zillow and, is it up to the Locke Management Corporation to be a realtor to supply a list, people on a list that you give us when a building in Locke is for sale, when it's clearly out there? So,
well, then I still think that list should be updated. Whether it is going to be this list minus those people you feel aren't, it would at least be more updated than the 2005 list that included I can name the Chans, I can name the Jangs, I can name all these other people that those Chinese people in China probably will never even be interested or hear about. So if you want to add those to, throw your vote in a different direction and throw your attention elsewhere.
It's choose what's on the list you're giving us. I mean, you've given us Paula Hinman, who's an author up in Fiddletown. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not descendants.
Right.
And yet you're handing us this list and saying, do the logistics, enter it into your system, pay, for the printing, pay for the postage. And frankly, I'm nervous if we don't vote for this, we're going to have another negative campaign like we've seen in the past saying, this is what the Locke Management Corporation did. They're denying the Chinese community, the API community, this and that.
Yeah.
So.
And it would be up till this point, there have been at least a couple of properties sold for sure that have not been notifying people, and so they're already sold, they're already owned by people who, in that process, other people that should have been notified from your bylaws were not notified.
Yes, with the bylaws.
Brock?
Yeah, I was just confused on how the list, you got the list. Because you said, well, I'm just saying, you were saying that some people wouldn't say they would want to be on the list. So did
Well,
you
no,
put them on the list? And then how do we know that organization vetted and knows that this list is accurate? I mean, it makes just more sense if you put a notice in the boarding house and say, if you want to be on the list, let us know and we'll add you to it. Because now we know who wants to be on the list. Otherwise, it seems like we're just kind of guessing.
Does anybody have a copy of the bylaws that oversees this, and what does it say?
And there is an additional copy.
Okay.
I have a question for you. It kind of along with what Brock was saying. You went through a process of vetting the people on this list?
We went through a process of vetting some of the people on this list, yes. And in so doing, I didn't talk to Jeff, I didn't talk to whoever else. Some of those people, I don't know how they got on this list.
But you're giving us that list and telling us to send them postcards.
Well, perhaps we could go from this point.
Why don't you do it yourself? We can give you the...
Because she doesn't have the responsibility.
It's not our responsibility, it was your responsibility.
I'm talking about your mission.
Our mission.
Why did you form Locke Product?
We formed it so that we could have camaraderie to begin with. That was it. It's like, oh my gosh, we don't have a group that, we'd like to have, be able to have dinners and all the other kinds of things that we'd like. And then from there, people said, hey, we take pride in being a member of having been here in Locke.
Let's not discuss what her nonprofit is about. Let's discuss what the bylaws say,
Okay,
and then we can
this
figure
is
this
section
out.
10.
All right, gotcha.
Locke Prior Residents, Descendants and Ascendants List. The association, in fulfilling its purpose to preserve the town of Locke's rich cultural heritage as a National Historic Landmark and the last remaining rural Chinese American town built and settled by Chinese immigrants in the United States, acknowledges the injustice of the California Alien Land Law of 1913 on the Chinese immigrant and Chinese American population residing in Locke prior to 1953. With the preceding understanding, the association shall use its best efforts to develop, maintain, and update annually a list of individuals who lived in Locke prior to 1953, and spouse, registered domestic partner, brothers, sisters, issue, and lineal ascendants of individuals who lived in Locke prior to 1953. That list shall be referred to as the Prior Residents, Descendants, Ascendants List. B, inquire with individuals on the Prior Residents, Descendants, Ascendants List as to their future intent to purchase property in Locke. C, serve as a repository for Locke historical information, which could later be developed into a local display or exhibit on the history of Locke and the effect of the Alien Land Act and how to, this is what this board is supposed to be doing, and how it impacted the town. D, consult the Prior Residents, Descendants, Ascendants List as a factor in the assignment of right of first refusal as provided in the CC&Rs.
I think we're stuck with this. She updated the list. Maybe we take the updated list and we go from there. And if we want to vet it ourselves, we can do it.
Yeah, and you can call those people that you named and initially just say, hey, what do you think? And if you want to cross them off because you checked with them, that'd be great.
Yeah.
May I say?
And this
already had public comment. Let's get this, let's move this thing. Go ahead. Okay, we're in board comment. Everybody have, yes?
I do. So I agree with Virginia. I am concerned about the interested parties. And so specifically with Jeff Freya Pro, I took over his place as
Right.
chair for Folsom History.
Yes.
He's been a longtime resident in Folsom. His interest was historical. Yeah, because we're building a Chinese Heritage
And
Museum in
doing well
Folsom.
doing it.
And that's why he got involved and reached out to the Chinese historical communities. But I know he's not interested in buying property here in Locke. So again, what's the definition of interested parties and why are they still on the list? It needs vetting. I do agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys are not an interested parties organization. You're Locke Prior Residents.
Right.
They're two
So,
different things.
can we take the interest parties out?
Anti-interest. May I say something?
Go ahead.
Now, number one, okay, the core of the list should be the descendants. But then remember that the reason we have this first right of refusal is to right the wrong of the past. There are a lot more people affected by the Chinese Exclusion Act and the Alien Land Act than just the residents of Locke. So we like to expand our list a little bit more to the people who are affected by this bad, evil law, and give these people more chance to right the wrongs. So that's why we have expanded the list from core descendant of Locke residents to the fringe of people who are interested, and that's the reason.
Considering Greg, considering what Greg said about Jeff, it's true. He probably at the time was interested in supporting us, but he is not interested in buying anything. So vet those marginal people, and if, as the core of what you just read said, go back to that original list.
To the 1953, who lived
And
here
people who-
prior to 1953.
Right, and so those people, when I got emails from, they gave me like, okay, my grandfather was this, that, the other, and so this, and so I have quite a few of those. Don't ask me for
Okay,
that.
let me just say, are the people on the list that you're giving us descendants of people that lived here before 1953?
Except for those,
All of them.
yes, except for those interested parties, yes.
Can you take the interest parties off?
Yes, when you take the interested parties off, yes, those are, the other ones are descendants and ascendants.
Martha, we're on board comment now.
Do you have a distinction on your list?
Yes.
Interested parties and prior residents? Is that,
I haven't looked at that, I haven't looked at that list. I apologize, but I have not looked at that list since we started talking about this and we provided you the list thinking that it would be your responsibility. So at this point, I couldn't answer that question.
So if we approve this, could you take off the interest part, could you vet that and take off the interest parties?
We
Would
could
that
try
be
to-
helpful?
We could try to do that, yes.
Who's going to be doing this mail out now?
The
Are you
mail out,
gonna?
well, whose responsibility? It's the board's responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on the board.
Okay, yeah, so we've got a responsibility. I didn't make up the CCNRs.
Where in the CCRs does it say that we have to accept other lists from other people?
It says update.
Where?
Update.
It says our
Update.
Well, then
responsibility.
you update it. You update it.
Okay, let's,
She updated it for us.
Eric had a question.
So,
this is board comment now.
Board comment.
It's a free-for-all. Sorry.
I agree that the interested party angle is problematic. I think that if this is in a table, a spreadsheet of some sort, if there's a way to sort by whether or not there's a prior ascendant, descendant of a resident versus an interested party, that would be helpful.
Okay.
I think that the notion that we have an obligation to notify, it's in the bylaws. I'm going to editorialize here and say and I think this is your point earlier, Stuart, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like if you really are interested in buying property in Locke, there's all kinds of ways to find out, and relying on a distribution from the Locke Management Corporation is not the best one, I will say. And it also is simply a right of first refusal, which means that you have the right to put in a higher bid. It doesn't mean you get anything cheaper.
Correct.
Okay? Or free or whatever. So, you know, if we have the obligation, I think it's fair for us to accept the list, but what we do with it is up to the board.
Correct.
Because we haven't been sending, I don't even see first right refusal on agendas anymore. There's all kinds of properties for sale over here, and I've never seen them on the agenda, so I said we accept the list without the interested parties.
I have a question on the list.
If we can separate out the interested parties ourselves by like sorting by whatever the column is or the row is, then fair enough, that's easy.
I think they're willing to do it for us.
That's a lot of work. If they have 200 names on there, we're gonna increase our,
I know, but we have a duty. I can't talk about the work.
Let me talk first.
Okay.
The point being is that, can anybody just come in and bring a list to our board and say, here are these interested people, send them a postcard, let them know properties for sale.
I think we're gonna do.
Let's look at something creative.
I think she's.
Let's look
I
at
think she's
one
done
moment.
her duty.
One moment. Locke Foundation has a website. Why can't we have maybe an icon, something where we could do some creative marketing? An icon, interested in property for sale. I mean, we have to talk to our Locke Foundation board about it, but that would save us a lot of money. And then your Locke product, you notify, write a formal letter to all the people on your list or email blast them. Locke Foundation has its website. Anything for sale, we're going to be posting it on our website. We're not going to be sending out postcards and mail out anymore.
We can't be talking for the Locke Foundation right now.
You're evading your responsibility.
Thank you.
It's still our responsibility, and we can.
Martha,
do
it is
something.
board comment now. Public comment is done.
With the listing, I bring it back to the Locke product, have them vetted out and clarified and verified. We don't have the time to do that. Since they are in a project with Ming Jiao to capture the women's voices for the Chinese women in the Delta, you're gonna have to do email blasts or send out notices to those folks to support women's voices. So why not do it at the same time? Let them know there's a premiere coming out. Let them know if they're interested in being on the interested parties list. Please have them send back the notice with correct address, correct email to L.M.C. Otherwise, we don't have that information.
You miss your point. We have to do it regularly, routinely, not
This is
just
it.
on this project.
This is it.
Okay, we're getting too in the weeds. We're getting too in the weeds
We
here.
can do it every year.
It's your responsibility. It
Okay.
is
I think we
when
should
a property
accept it.
comes up
Let's
for
focus
sale.
here. Let's focus.
So it will not be, it's when a property comes up for sale. How often does a property come up for sale anyway? So we might be talking.
Okay, hold on. I make a motion that we accept the list minus the interest parties, and that we accept the list. We're not saying that we have to go further with anything with it. Okay?
Then
We're
Lisa
just
would take up
accepting.
responsibility.
Okay, I'm taking up the board responsibility, honey. Okay? So I just put a motion out that we accept the list and without the interested parties. What we do with the list is up to us. Whether we want to fulfill that responsibility,
What
that's
is your
up to us.
motion?
That we accept the list from Prada minus the interest parties. Just accept the list.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, motion
Okay, we
failed.
got a second, we got a second.
No, I accept the list and then all of this is a bigger, way
No,
bigger.
you seconded it.
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
let's take a vote. Could we have a roll call vote on this?
One moment. So the motion is to accept the list with the amendment to remove interested parties from the list. Member John?
Yes.
Member Wu? Member Lam?
No.
Member Giles?
Yes.
Member Kirk?
Yes.
Member Prosser?
No.
Member Walthall?
No.
Come on.
Member Heath?
Yes.
And that motion carries with those members present.
you.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 9. Discussion regarding lighting in the town of Locke. Joe, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah. We do have a number of lights that are out, and we've started to identify them on a grid. An older grid that was provided by SMUD, I'm guessing. I've talked to them a couple of times, and that's the only way that they will act on this, as I was told. They may do other things, but this is what I was told. We had to identify each one of these poles. Their sheet of paper is a little less than accurate for everything. So what I'm trying to get out of them right now, and I'm trying to find the person to talk to that has the updated list, and one that we can read. Because some of these things we can't read and tell what the numbers are.
Let me add a little something too.
Okay.
The map we have has all the poles in town. Most of the numbers line up, some of them don't. But that doesn't mean all the poles have a light. So when I identified all the poles that have a light and if they're working. Jenny, I know you mentioned you have a pole that works.
Yeah, I'm the one that does have. It's that ugly, yeah. I have the
Okay,
one
there's
working.
2 up here, and there's another one that's above the Memorial Park, and it has lights on both sides of it. So what we did is we have a status now of what's on, what's off, and pretty much what their numbers are. So that's that part of the lighting in town. But then we also have the issue of lighting that's in the parking lot and the lighting that's in the restaurant.
I can give you a brief update on that.
Okay.
We went to check out the electrical box where the timer is for the lights over here. Thanks to Russell, we were able to get into the box and check it out and find out where the timer is. And Mark and Deborah were assisting in this, and we changed out the batteries in the timer. And it's difficult to tell exactly what's happening there. So
They're all on.
They're all on.
Oh, they are.
Everything's on.
So, well, we played with the thing a little bit, and now they apparently came on. But we still would like to get the timer functioning and such, and to check out the circuitry. So, I have one of the bulbs. We're going to get some new bulbs for some of the smaller ones, and I think we've got a electrician coming later this week. Is that correct? Yes, to check out the box and the circuitry, and hopefully reprogram the timer properly.
Very good. Do we have any public comment on the lighting?
Let me take a look.
Agenda item number 9. People are getting antsy.
Comment on item number 9, please press star 9 now. I see no hands raised.
Okay. Anybody in public? I'm sure Martha does. Deborah's hand up first. All right, Martha.
Go for it.
I have to check something first.
Sure.
I do.
Wondering why there are 2 different SMUD accounts on the checks. One is usually for around $284 a month. The other one is $32-ish a month. Used to be only $32 in the, or a much lower amount back in the old days, about 5-6 years ago. But for some reason, the electric bills have gone about 4 or 5-fold from what they were before.
Deborah?
Well, I'll get this later. Yeah. There's a lot of things, like changing batteries, that this board is capable of doing. We don't need a grant for that. We don't need a huge amount of discussions and meetings. If someone had just told this board, you know, whenever this battery went out, and it was all corroded in the timer case, that the lights were out, I'm sure that our current board would have, stepped up, but it's only recently that someone has notified the board. And I don't usually go out at night in that area, so I didn't know. But I'm glad that we got it solved, and all the parking lot lights are on, the restroom light is on, so no one can hide in there at night. Everything's lit up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that short. Russell.
Well,
or anyone else has to wait to move SMUD to buying or to somehow use those lower launch lights. I think everyone in town is in agreement with this, which is interesting. This is one issue that everyone agrees on, and I think that the county should be, we should enlist their help.
You have all that information, do you have it like in an email, your correspondence with SMUD?
Oh, I have all the emails, yeah.
Okay. You can send it, and I can, you can send it to me and I can try to forward, but I have to understand what the wattage is and what you exactly want. But
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you send it, forward it to me, I can see if the county can do anything or intervene. But I need to see what your communication has been with them.
Yeah, and like Joe said, the people that I had on board no longer.
That's common.
They're no longer working.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the thing is to keep pushing SMUD to see. The thing is, if they replace the lights with lower wattage lights, and they don't normally keep them in stock, they have to buy 2 sets of lights, one to install and the other one's as backups, and they just don't want to put the money out. It's that simple.
Tony, I have a question about the lighting. With all the new LEDs that have come out since those old lamps that we have were put in, there must be something that's compatible. Did they speak with you about that?
What do you mean compatible?
I mean, meaning that most of the LED lamps go, like, say, a standard household socket, or whether it's a 2-prong plug or whatever. Many of the ones have been replaced by LED lamps that are, they last for a very long time, and they're...
Well, they would replace them with LEDs. The difference is, I mean, technically, it's like, right now we have 100 watt, this is not accurate, but it's like you putting 100-watt light bulbs in all your lamps next to your couch versus putting a 60 or a 40-watt in. And we don't want the 100-watt because it's sort of like, looks like an airport parking lot.
Right.
We're looking for the 60-watt lamps that have a sort of an orangey glow. So it'll be safe. It'll light up Locke in a way that's more pleasing rather than have the same lamps you see on, a street in Sacramento that has a double yellow line down the middle.
Well, I've offered this up. If you and I could talk, I've offered this up. I will do a bunch of research and see what else I can find as well.
And then I'll ask the county to intervene, okay?
And who is speaking?
Virginia Giles.
Oh, Virginia Giles.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be in touch with you then.
That'd be fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, good. Someone has to give me your information, then I'll forward you all that.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Any other board comments regarding lighting? Okay, let's move on to agenda item 10, residential, report from residential building owner representative. I don't have one. I don't think we need public comment on that.
Anything that's agendized, yes, we do public.
Okay, do we have anything online for residential building today? Owner representative, agenda item 10.
If you'd like to make a public comment on item number 10, please press *9 now. I see no hands raised.
From the, in public? Okay, any board comment? Okay. Agenda item number 11, report from commercial building owner representative.
I guess that's me. I don't have one.
Okay, there we
Okay,
go.
this is normally when we give a little chance for our merchants too.
We're okay.
We're doing better.
Okay.
Things are picking up.
Is there any online comments?
I see no hands raised for item number 11.
Okay, from the crowd, the public, board comment? Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 12, report from Organization of Chinese Americans Representative. You know, Daryl, I would like to get the name changed here. So, if we could get that.
Yeah, and then we're having our annual Dragon Boat Dinner, which is May 23rd.
Is that on the boat?
No boat.
Okay.
Doubletree Hotel.
Okay, okay.
Daryl, what is the name change now for OCA?
Organization of Organization of Community Advocates.
Whoa. Organization community.
Now, I don't know, don't want to stir the pot here, but it doesn't say anything Chinese in there. So, you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. Do we have any public comment online?
I see no hands raised for item 12.
Anybody have some OCAs or Organization of Community Advocates? Okay, item number 13, report from CACS, Chinese American Council of Sacramento representative.
Just two comments. We donated monies to the Locke Asian Pacific Spring Festival this past weekend. And we are sponsoring a potluck barbecue in Fiddletown, August 31st, 2024. That's it.
Look forward to that. Any comments, public comments online?
I see no hands raised for item 13.
Okay, public comment on the board? Report from the Locke Foundation representative.
Locke Foundation Board, I passed out a handout and it has specific items, dates on activities. So Locke Foundation will continue to schedule walking tours about Locke during the past month to school groups, senior communities, and educational groups. On March 23rd, we attended the Town Hall for Public Safety, hosted by County Supervisor Pat Hume and Sac County Sheriff Jim Cooper. On April 26th, Locke Foundation attended an event hosted by the California State Railroad Museum and the U.S.-China Railroad Friendship Association in celebration of its 155th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad. We thank Director Heath. On April 27th, both Heath and also Clarence Chu hosted the EVADIS Clampus group to come to Locke for their annual membership and cleanup of the town. And they dedicated and installed a memorial plaque at the Chinese Arts Building that's owned by Clarence Chu in honor of the Bok Bok Man. So if you're not familiar with what a Bok Bok Man is, if you go upstairs to the upstairs exhibit, in the early days, the Bok Bok Man would hold an instrument, a wooden clapper like this, and walk around town in the early hours to signal that the town is safe from fire or safe from other issues. So that's the Bok Bok Man. So haven't seen the Bok Bok upstairs and seen the plaque. It's in front of the Clarence's Shoe shop. On May 11th, of course, Locke Foundation on Saturday, we held a successful Pacific Asian Spring Festival, opening up the event with Eastern Ways Lions and martial arts. We invited County Supervisor Pat Hume, SMUD member Roseanne Heber, and others to open the ceremony. Locke Foundation gave out 4 scholarships. We invited 2 lecturers to talk about the Chinese rail workers and the Chinese in Hollywood. And the Locke Foundation, of course, we thank all the dedicated volunteers who handle parking, equipment setup, directing performers, and oversee the boarding house museum, as well as the oral history project committee reach out to show the premiere and future about the woman voices. And Howard Chan from the City of Sacramento, city manager, he actually attended the festival and he came into our boarding house museum. So we clocked in about 400 visitors for that Saturday, so around 390. So thanks to all the volunteers who helped out, co-chaired by Stuart Wathaw and Eileen Leung, did a wonderful job to do that. On March 24th, Locke Foundation will host a tour for 16 elected officials from the Southern California, the water education for Latino leaders, and they learn about the Delta communities. So last year they came and they're very excited to learn more about the Delta communities as it relates to water transferring to Southern California. On May 25th, Locke Foundation will be at the City of Sacramento Public Library to support the California State Railroad Museum and the U.S.-China Friendship Association. There will be guest lectures to honor the 155-year anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad, and director Ming Zhao, who's creating Voices of the Chinese Women in the Delta, she will be showing 3 films at the library. It's a free event, lunch is being served, but you need to RSVP.
Honey,
That's all
what
I
was
have to
the SMUD representative name? That
Roseanne Heber?
Okay.
Might be correction on the spelling.
Rosanna Heber, is it H-I-E?
H-E-B-E-R.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a contact information for her?
I don't.
Okay. Which organization was she with?
SMUD.
SMUD, I know, but where was she?
She
She was the
represents this
speaker at the
area.
opening ceremony.
Okay, okay.
Represents this area and she's president.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, is there any comment on?
I see no hands raised for
Okay,
item
let's
14.
keep moving. Historic preservation representative.
I don't have a report either.
Okay, anybody have any comments on historic preservation?
I see no hands raised for item 15.
Okay, board comments. Okay, report from Sacramento County Board of Supervisors and appointees.
Okay, I'm gonna make this quick. At the Asian Fair on Saturday was the Delta Conveyance Project people who talked about a community benefit program. And so if you all know, those are the tunnel people. And I asked them, I said, who are you? Well, we're a nonprofit. Who are you being funded by? A subcontractor. And who's funding them? Department of Water Resources. So this was not particularly the greatest area to have those people in. And next time...
They had a booth?
Yes, they had a booth.
What were they called?
The Delta Conveyance Project.
No, they were not. They must have been called something.
No, I put it on Facebook. Okay, but
I didn't see
okay, but the reality is, next time this happens, we need to restore the Delta. And and I looked at their information about the community benefits, but it's only if the sequel is approved and the project is approved.
Yeah, we have a map of all of the vendors that are out there, but Stuart and Eileen handle the vendors. But
No, they were there. I said, you're in dangerous territory.
So were they connected with the Delta Commission?
They were a nonprofit. This is how government is getting. They were a nonprofit subsidized by a subcontractor who's getting paid for by Department of Water Resources.
Is Douglas Shaw here still?
Nope, he's not.
No.
Anyway, that was disappointing.
Why he had something to do with it?
He might have, and I understand,
Whoever rented that or got that booth
Next time we
was
start
not
the Delta
called
needs
Delta
Conveyance Project.
Conveyance.
They didn't say tunnels. You gotta be
I
careful.
believe they got that contact through Douglas Shaw.
But they were there.
So, yeah. Did you give them a 1-2?
Yeah, and then I sent Tom on them.
Okay. Okay, any staff report from the agenda item number 17?
Chair Walter, just for the record, no hands were raised for item 16.
Okay, thank you.
Staff update, we do not have any updates at the moment.
Okay. We have under directors' comments. Reports and announcements. That would be from the directors.
I wanted to thank Stuart and also Joe Costa for stepping up to serve on the board. I know it takes a lot of energy and time, and our directors appreciate you for doing that to take care of and keep Locke healthy and safe best we can.
Okay, anybody have any comments, updates? I don't know if we asked for public comments on that.
Okay.
Okay, and now, section 4, matters not posted on the agenda. I'm gonna open it up.
You want to give this to somebody?
Yeah. Thank you. And if you would just go ahead and introduce yourself, because we only have audio recording.
Yes.
Well, we have video, but.
My name is Jim Harper. I'm a resident of Sacramento County, born in Sacramento. I do not live in Locke, but I've come down to Locke ever since the 70s. And I very much feel very strongly that this issue of arsenic in the water should be seriously still considered and has not been resolved. And what I'm recommending is that this board meet with the the water board and have a joint meeting, a joint public meeting where you can resolve this issue, because Walnut Grove has taken care of the problem, but there's been no connection here to the Walnut Grove situation where the problem's been taken care of. And it seems to me that it's time to move forward on this. The children that live in this community here are living in homes where the water that washes their clothes, that they wash their hands with, whatever, is still not treated. Even if you're finally getting them bottled water again. And to me, it just seems like if Walnut Grove could take care of it, I'm not an expert on this, but it seems to me that it'd be a major public policy question that I'm sure all of you are also concerned about. And perhaps the way to do it is to start with a public meeting with you and the water group, talking about these issues, and perhaps deciding how do you connect with Walnut Grove to make this work again, or what other alternatives do you have? And so I just simply throw that out to you. I do this, please, with all due humility. I do not presuppose to have an answer to any of these questions. Just as a citizen, I'm concerned about it. As a citizen, I'm concerned about this issue. So I just leave you with that with you.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, first of all, for your comments. They're important. Have you talked to the Locke Waterworks Corporation or business? They are the ones that have the rights of way and the sourcing and the pumping, and they are the ones that stand between Locke's water system and the inner tie with Walnut Grove. So thank you for your suggestion of a public meeting with others. It should not, as you may or may not have heard during this whole meeting today, it's been an extended one. Our powers are somewhat limited, and probably the most important stakeholder in any meeting would be Locke Waterworks.
And I understand that. If I can just respond to that. I don't pretend to have the answers to all this. I'm just saying, as a group here, I've talked to an individual member of the board just briefly, but not any formally with them. And I've thought about I would probably also approach them. But what I'm suggesting, would approach them to also suggest is that this could be a joint effort, because this is your community and this is your water. And these are your folks here and these kids here. And so I would think it'd be, perhaps rather than be as an individual, approach them and say, hey, what are you doing? Then perhaps instead the answer is that you folks as an organization say, hey, we want to work together with you to try to resolve this. Because at this point, finally there was water brought back, as you know, after some time when there was no water. Now they have water again delivered to them, I guess, but they still have to live in it like it is. So I'm just suggesting to you that as an organization here representing this community, I'm sure you would have an interest in and some of you live here yourselves and deal with this water, that you would have or have businesses here that have to deal with this water. You would have an interest perhaps in approaching them and asking that you work together to resolve this problem. Thank you for your time.
We have, Joe and I have attended, I guess it was online, and I wish I could tell you the overall agency. It's the same agency that had controlled drinking water. They're the ones that ultimately got the funding for delivering bottled water here. And also on their agenda is the intertie with the Walnut Grove system. And they do have monthly meetings. They, I can't say I really understand all their funding sources and who has to talk to who, and they mention a lot of first names and whatnot. It's a little more of a casual type meeting where they're talking to each other in first names, and since we're on the telephone, it's a little difficult. But I will tell you that issue is being addressed monthly. So what you're saying here, I guess, would be make it happen faster than monthly meetings.
I think the answer, regardless of the meetings, what needs to be resolved is the issue itself. Beyond having the meetings, let's just get it done.
Yeah.
Walnut Grove is moving forward. You know, they're out of it. They're out of that problem as far as I'm not an expert on this, but they're taking care of this, right? Bottom line is, why did not Locke take care of it at about the same time?
Well,
rather than years later now, it's over a year, but I don't know how long ago, a year later.
It's easier for Walnut Grove for one thing. There are easement issues. Remember, that's going to have to come across the cross channel.
Right.
I've seen a preliminary map. I don't know if they're going to stick with it around the back, where they would have to actually be working with the Locke Management Corporation, which are the property owners here in town, to intertie it into the system. And there's been discussion on how much of this system existing, the system that we have now, how much of the existing system after the intertie would be utilized. Would it be utilized for fire protection, for gardens, etc.? The subject of there being the town being metered, and the funding of the entire thing. So, but I hear what you're saying.
Stuart, if you get that information, maybe we can get it to Jim, and he can advocate on that end too, because I think it's Sac County.
I can give you a contact for sure.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that.
And I still have your card from the last time you spoke.
Okay, yeah, I spoke on it some time back. I'll just conclude quickly because then you would go with your evening. Perhaps the board could simply be the catalyst to move this to the next level and getting this done. So that the people who live here, and you know, also with all due respect, when you come into this town and you don't live here and you deal with, you know, you do business here in this town, you're not aware of the fact that there's this issue. You know? You don't know that. And yet, and so, but it puts people at risk on that also in some ways. And so I would just recommend, if you could be the catalyst as a group, if you decide it's worth your time to do this, if you want to do this, to bring these other people together and make this happen. You're going to be respectful to them, I understand. You know these people, I'm sure. You know, but to bring these people together and then to actually move forward to figure out what needs to be done, then that would, I think, make it move faster than it's going to move on its own. That's just my suggestion.
I think it's realistic to have Locke Waterworks in here every meeting, because we're not just talking about drinking water here, we're talking about fire protection. However,
all right, thank you.
It's not happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harper.
And thank you all for your service to this community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, is there any other public comment not on the agenda?
There are just a few little touch-ups. Martha, I don't know, it's just so amusing. She reads the census of 1930, and it's really, really clear that it's a town a mile up. And it was Libby Owens Libby was where all the 230 apartment buildings were, and that's where all those workers were. Lots, pretty much all Chinese all the time, except of course there were one or two people living, probably had a rooming house, maybe in the boarding house. But I mean, you read the census, you can watch them come in from the south walk through, walk across the street, get the names there, walk across, meet Jack Ross, who lived over there. I knew Jack Ross, and then go upriver. So it was never locked. The other thing, I don't believe, Eric, the first right of refusal, as far as I know, your board is the only thing in the CCRS that can act on the first right of refusal. We don't, after we buy it, you have to have the money to buy it, then you can assign it. And you can assign it to anybody. They're not limited to assign it to anyone in particular. It's wide open. If we had some wonderful person who was gonna fix a building up and fix 5 other buildings and help us and help the town, you can assign it to them. The other thing is, I always hope that people give helpful comments. I just read a thing about the people that are cynical and critical are often thought to be more intelligent. But actually the people that are open-minded and that listen to both sides, and they're the more intelligent people. Cynical people just, make pronouncements and opinions and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, open-mindedness, and that's what I hope to ask and get from Mr. Hume. That's it. Bye.
Thank you. Any other public comment not on the agenda?
Sure.
Deborah?
Oh, yeah, now that water's been brought up, I think it'd be a great idea if we did have a representative from Locke Waterworks at every meeting to give us an update, because I was at the meetings that board called for the ratepayers showed up, the property owners, those that did, and we were told our 3 options to remediate our arsenic, and we were also asked to vote on which one we would like, and we voted for the one that would, it was before you were here.
Yeah, I'm just.
And so we voted for the only one that the county would pay for, which was to bring the water from Walnut Grove. And so it was already brought to the ratepayers, to the property owners, and we voted for what we wanted, and that's the last we heard of it. So it would be great if property owners, could know what's happening.
Well, there is monthly meetings every second Tuesday.
Where?
It's Zoom.
Oh.
I'd be happy to
There's
share.
never been, they've only invited us the last time, years ago, to that meeting where they presented the options.
Well, we were invited once and then put on their mailing list, so that Locke Management, we're notified when the meeting is, so I could share that with people, be happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard when you don't see, it's an audio meeting.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
strictly 100% audio. Thanks.
Any other public comment not on the agenda?
I'd like to once again ask this board for internal dispute resolution with any one of you who is validly elected by the property owners in this town under Civil Code Section 5105, which is your bylaws, Davis-Sterling Act, that you have lawsuits against me for. Any one of you who's been validly elected. Internal dispute resolution. I ask it again. Sorry, Mr. Prasa, you weren't elected and you're not a property owner, so you don't qualify even to be a candidate under 5105. Mr. Walthall, you weren't elected. You simply self-declared that you're unopposed and there doesn't need to be an election. That is not an election either. And your board seat expired December 31st, 2022. You have not been ratified by the county. Thank you.
Martha, you lost every court case, pay the fines, and make us whole for the money that this we spent.
Are there any other?
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Public comments, not on the agenda. I adjourn the meeting.
Yay.